Hey everyone, thanks for joining Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today I'll be teaching you how to play Sanctum. This is a brand new game from CGE. It is a 2 to 4 player game that takes roughly 60 to 90 minutes to play, and is a competitive game where each player is going to be trying to defeat the Demon Lord with the most hit points, or if all players are eliminated, the player that has made it furthest along on the Demon Lord's track. As always, if you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to my channel. I know everybody asks for it, but it's one of the easiest ways you can help support channels like mine so we can continue to grow and bring content to you guys. Also, let me know in the comments below if there's anything you would like to see or cover. I'd love to start a conversation. So as always, if you want to stay up to date on my videos, also consider ringing that bell so you get notifications anytime I release new content. And let's head to the table and I'll teach you guys how to play. The game is going to come with standard 6-sided dice. The only difference are the color on the pips. Most of your dice will have the gold pips, and 4 dice will have the silver pips. Each hero is going to gain 1 silver die, and this will be used for one of their special abilities that they can unlock throughout the game. There's a number of different plastic tokens included in the game as well. The 3 round tokens are broken into 3 colors. Black is for hit markers, blue is focus, and red is stamina. And you'll use these 2 on your character sheets to track abilities that you've used throughout the turns, and I'll explain how these work later. Then there are 4 different colored gems, blue, white, red, and green, and players will be manipulating these on the side of their board to unlock skills, and then later they'll spend these to equip new items on their heroes. There's a number of different decks of cards included in the game as well. This first deck are the demon cards, and this is going to have 3 levels of demons, levels 1, 2, and 3. And each demon card is going to have a number of different pieces of information on it. First, in the top left-hand corner is going to be the type of item that demon is carrying on the back side of the card, and I'll show you that more in a minute. And there are 5 different types of items: magic items, armor, weapons, helmets, and boots. Then on the other side of the card is going to be the level of that demon with the icon, so levels 1, 2, and 3, and then the number of gems that that player will get to manipulate on the player's board when defeating that demon, and I'll cover that more later. Then the image of the demon, and each level is going to have different images so you can differentiate them as well. Then the number of hit points that demon has in dice, so you have to lock those numbers on the dice in order to defeat that demon. So this one needs a 4 and a 5. And the number of damage that demon does to the player if it is not defeated. So level 1 demons do 1, level 2s do 2, and level 3 do 4 damage. And I'll go into more detail about that during fights. On the back side of each demon card is the item it is holding, and again there are 5 different types of items: magic items, armor, weapons, helmets, and boots. Each item is also going to have a name and a number of gems you have to lock on that item in order to equip it. And then finally at the bottom of each card are the different abilities that item grants the player, including abilities that will modify dice, give the player defense, and additional focus or stamina tokens, and even abilities that will allow the player to change a die to a certain number. There are 2 different decks of cards for the Demon Lord, and these will be used towards the end of the game during the Demon Lord's battle. The first one are the Demon Lord's cards, and each one of these will have a number of different dice on it that you have to lock on there to defeat that card, and if you don't, the number of hit points that card will do back to you. And then on the other side of the card is going to be the different effects, including the card's name and a choice that the player has to make. So for example, with this card, you can corrupt 1 blue ability space or take a wound, and you must choose one of those 2 abilities, and I'll go into more detail about this later. Then you have the Fury cards, and again on the back side of each of these cards will be the dice you have to lock on that card to defeat it, or the number of hit points that card does back to you if you don't defeat it, and then again a choice and a name of that choice. So you'll have to choose those, and I'll go into more detail about this during the Demon Lord battle. There's also 6 starting bonus cards, and I'll go into more detail about these during setup. And then each character is going to have their own set of 6 skill cards that will be placed in their skill table at the beginning of the game, and throughout the game they're going to try to unlock these different skills. Each skill is going to have a number and color that it's associated with on that skill table, a number of gems will be placed on it during setup, and an icon of the player or character it belongs to. Each skill will have a name and the ability of that skill along with any icons that help you out. On the back side of each skill is also going to be that skill's reference. Once it is unlocked, it'll be turned to that side and placed on the left side of the player's board. There's also a quick reference guide, as you can see here, for each character outlining how these abilities and skills work. Each character board is going to have a number of different features on it. At the top of the board is going to be the battle board, where you're going to place demons you have not defeated yet, and your dice. On the other side is going to be the item pool, which is where you'll place items that you have unlocked but have not equipped yet. Then you have the gem pool, where you're going to place gems that you've been able to move up, and your skills table, and I'll show you how this works a little bit later during setup. Your health track, focus and stamina pools, and your different items that you can equip, and locations for the potions you'll gather throughout the game, and unlock skills on the side. The achievement board is broken down into three main sections. The first is skill mastery, which is based on the number of skills that a player has unlocked. Then gem mastery, which is the number of gems of specific colors that a player has unlocked. And then finally equip mastery, which is going to be based on the equipped levels the player has. Each of these sections is going to have 3 levels to it, and each level is going to have an icon that signifies the number the player must meet in that category to receive the achievement token. Then there's also a 4th bonus category, which is the higher level mastery, where a player will receive that if they're the first level player to unlock one of the level 2 achievements or level 3 achievements. For board setup, you're only ever going to have 2 boards out on the table at any time, and based on the number of players, as you can see on this chart, these will be the boards that you're going to use. So I'm going to set up for a 2-player game, so I'm going to use boards 1 and 3. And then the next thing you're going to do is place out your divine intervention. And again, this is going to be based on the chart here and the number of players that are playing the game. With a 2-player game, I'm going to use divine intervention 3 tile, and then you're going to place a number of dice on there based on the number of players. Then you can place out all the rest of the tokens you'll be using, and for this video I'll be using a Crystal Fortress pod set. If you want to know more about these, there'll be a link in the description below to their website. You can also place out any other tokens you're going to be using, and you can set off to the side both the Demon Lord cards and the Fury cards, as you're not going to be using them yet. So we'll just place them up here. To set up the demon board, go ahead and grab the deck of demon cards and separate them into their 3 different levels. Again, levels 1, 2, and 3. And then go ahead and shuffle each level up and place it on its corresponding spot on the demon board. Make sure that it is with the demon side up and not the item side up. At the bottom of each one of the decks is also going to be a discard pile for those levels. To set up the achievements board, first go ahead and grab the Divine Intervention token and place it up in the top right left-hand corner. Then place a number of dice on it based on the number of players that are playing. Go ahead and grab the achievement tiles and shuffle those up as well, and then place one out on each one of the different locations on the board. Return the unused token to the box, as you won't need it for this game. Then, if you're playing a 2-player game, there's one additional step with this where you're going to remove an additional token from each one of the levels. In order to do that, you can assign random numbers to each one of the categories. So I'm going to show you this by doing the dice. So 1 and 2 is skills, 3, 4 is gems, and 5, 6 is equipment. Then you're going to roll a die for each level, then take away a token for that. So level 1, I rolled a 6, so I'll take this token away. For level 2 is a 5, so another token. And then for the last level is a 3, so then this one will be taken away, and those will be returned to the box as well. Again, this step is only used in a 2-player game. The next step is to set up our player boards. For player setup, each player will choose a character they want to play as, and then gather that character's board, the character's miniature, and all the different skill cards and skill tokens that that player is going to need. Each character is going to have an icon, which you're going to find on both the skill cards and the skill tiles, and you'll place those tiles and cards within the skill table. Each of the cards and tiles is going to have a number and a color associated with it, and so it'll be placed right on that slot. Each card and tile is also going to list the number of gems you'll place on that during setup. Go ahead and place the silver die on the card that is associated with it. And then some of the cards will also have these little flame symbols, which is where you're going to place the different tokens to add to those areas for stamina and focus. And you can just place those on there because as soon as you unlock it, you'll gain those additional tokens right to your pools. Each player will have their 2 pools, their stamina and focus, which will list the number of tokens you'll start with each of those. So my player here has 3 stamina and 2 focus. Each character is also going to start with 2 dice, and you'll place a 3rd die on the Divine Intervention with a white gem on top of it, which will be unlocked later. Each character will also start with a Fury token with the picture side up, and their hit point marker will be on their top spot of their hit point track. Once all the players are set up, then the final step is to determine the starting player and give players their starting bonuses based on this chart as you can see here. So in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and roll the dice and see which player comes up higher. And so it's going to be my archer that is the first player. So she is going to receive 1 bonus card. So we'll shuffle these up and she gets to move the green number 2 up 1 space. So she'll take one of those gems and move it up 1. Then the warrior is going to receive a potion, a random potion. So in order to do that, you'll flip it. And it's a blue potion, so he'll add that. And then he gets 2 bonus cards. So he's going to get a blue 2. He'll move up 1 of his blues. And a green 3. So he'll move up 1 of his greens. From here, then we're ready to begin the game. In Sanctum, players are going to be moving across the lands, defeating demons, making their way towards the demon lord, and hopefully defeating him. Along this journey, the players are going to be fighting demons to gain items and leveling up their characters as they go along, gaining new skills and new abilities to help them in their quest to defeat the demon lord. And the player that is able to do this the best is going to be the winning player. The last step before beginning the game is that the players are going to decide on a difficulty level. If this is your first couple games, I definitely recommend the normal level as this is a very challenging game, but as you get familiar with the game, you can increase those difficulty levels as you can see on this chart, and this will impact the game later in the game. It's not really going to have any effects at the beginning of the game. From there, then we'll move into the game itself, where the players are going to starting with the first player and proceeding around the board in a clockwise manner. To begin the game, each player is going to start off by doing a move action so that they can get their player onto the board, and I'm going to cover that in a second. After that, during a player's turn, they must perform 1 action from a selection of 3 different actions, which is to either move, fight, or rest, and I'm going to take you through each one of these in more detail to show you how they work. The first action I'm going to look at is the move action, as this is going to be the action players must take at the beginning of the game, and this action is going to involve 4 steps that the players are going to do in order. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the huntress, as she is the first player, and so to start the move action, the first step is to move. So at the beginning of the game, you're simply going to place your figure on the first space on the track, and other players will add their figures to the later spaces, so the slayer during his turn would add his figure there. And then in later turns, if you do a move action, you're going to move your figure to the front of the line if you're in the back. Now, if you're in the front of the line already, you're simply going to move 1 space forward on that track. And it doesn't matter on the number of spaces, so if we had 4 players, our other 2 were here, the huntress would move all the way to the front of the line. The next step in that is going to be the reveal demons. So based on the space you're in, there's going to be an icon underneath it that shows the number of demons that are going to be revealed in a pair. With the first space, you're going to reveal 5 pairs of level 1 demons. And again, this is based on the space you're on. So with that, my player is going to place out 5 pairs of level 1 demons. And you'll always have 5 pairs to choose from. So as other players come on, they'll just simply follow the instructions on theirs, and I'll show you that in a second. The third step is to take demons. So you're going to take one of the pairs of demons, or later on when there's high level demons, you'll simply take the card of it. And you must take the pair if there are more than 1 demon. You cannot choose to take 1 from one and 1 from the other. And with that, it is about strategy, choosing which demons to take based on the numbers and the items that they provide. So my huntress is going to take this pair here, and when you take a pair, you're going to add it to your board with the demons revealed. The fourth and final step in the turn, which is going to be skipped most of the time, is if you land on the last space on the board, or the current board, there's going to be a treasure chest on the top of it, as you can see here. And with that, that is going to have a final step where all of the demon cards are going to be flipped over, and each player will get to take 1 item from that set. Even if there's a pair, you're only ever going to take 1 card and add it to your area. So let's go ahead and say, for example, that she moved up here, then you would flip over all of these cards, and I'm just going to show you with this one example. You would take one of those cards of your choice from the selection of cards that are on the board. Once each player has made that selection, and you're always going to start with the player that landed on that space first and move in a clockwise manner, with each player getting to take 1 card. After that, then all the rest of the cards will be removed from this board, and the players will continue on working their way up through the boards. Now that my Huntress's turn is done, the Slayer's turn will begin. So let me show you one more example of this. So he's going to be moved onto the board, as that is his first action he must take. Underneath his space shows a pair of level 1 demons, so he'll place out a new pair so that he always has 5 different pairs to choose from. Then he's going to choose one of those pairs to add to his area. And let's do this pair here, adding it to his area. And then finally, he didn't land on a space with a treasure chest, so his turn is done, and it will move back over to the Huntress's turn. The fight action has 6 different steps that are done in order. The first is before the roll. Throughout the game, players are going to be gaining potions, both red and blue potions, that they're going to place on the bottom of their board. And then during this step, the player can spend any number of those potions to return either the red stamina or blue focus back to their pools, as the players are going to be assigning these to different locations throughout the game to add and modify their dice as they roll them. And I'll show you this a little bit more later. For each red potion you spend, you can return 1 red stamina back to the pool, and for each blue potion you spend, you can return a focus back to the pool. Once you're done with that step, then you're going to gather up your dice that you have, and throughout the game you're going to gain more dice, either from Divine Intervention, the first time you equipped an item, or even skills that will provide you with a die, and if you meet the requirements of those, you'll be able to add that to your pool. Once you have gathered up your dice from your pool, you'll go ahead and give them a roll. The third step is to attack, and so you're going to assign your dice that you have rolled to the different demons based on their numbers underneath them. Each die that you assign can also be modified by any skills or abilities that you have on your player board by assigning different stamina or focus to those different locations. So with this example, I have rolled a pair of 4s, and this one demon up here has a 4 as a requirement, so I can place that up there, defeating that demon, as he only has a requirement of 1 die of that number there, so he has been defeated. The other demon is a 5, and I've only rolled a 4, so I have to modify that if I want to. So for example, I have a couple of choices. I can spend a blue focus onto this symbol here, which allows me to add +1 or -1 to this die. And one important thing with this is you can never take a die above 6 or below 1. And you can use multiple different abilities to modify a die. So I could choose to do this one, and then I could also do this one if I needed to. So if I only rolled let's say a 2, I could have done this to modify it up to a 3, and then I could spend a second one to modify it up to a 5, as that is a plus or -2 to it. But I rolled a 4, so I can do the plus or -1 to upgrade it to a 5. Now the other option I have is if I have a Fury token that has the image side up and not my art side up, then I can spend that token, flipping it over to the bottom side. When I do, I can modify that die to any number that I need. So if I rolled a 1, I could choose to spend that token and then change it to a 5, and that will allow me to defeat this demon. Once you have assigned any dice that you've chosen, if you have any dice remaining and you still have demons to face, then you can, if your token is spent, you can flip it back over to its active side. But with my example here, I went ahead and spent that to modify my 4 to a 5, defeating that demon. At this point, I have spent all of my dice, and I don't have any more demons to face. If there was, let's say, a demon that had 2 different numbers on it, and I am out of dice, I will mark each success with a hit token, which are the little black tokens. That way, then I know that that symbol has been hit, and I don't have to worry about that, and that'll stay with that demon until I defeat the demon. The fourth step is to block, so any demons that you have not defeated are going to attack you now, and so you must defend against those demons or take wounds. So for example, let's go ahead and say that we did not defeat this demon, and so he's going to wound our character for 1 damage, as he only has the 1 hit point underneath him. At this point then I can spend stamina to block or cover up the shields, and for each shield that I cover up, it's going to add that number of defense. So I cover this one up and block 1 point of damage. Likewise, with this one down here, this requires 2 tokens of either color, either red or blue or a combination of, in order to get the 1 shield to block 1 damage. But I did defeat the demon, so I don't have to worry about blocking. If you choose not to block, then again you take wounds, and I'd only recommend that as a last resort, as the wounds are very, very important and will determine the winner of the game based on whoever has the most wounds left after defeating the Demon Lord, if you're able to defeat the Demon Lord. The fifth step is gaining levels and items. So for each demon that you've completely defeated by placing a number of dice on there matching all the different symbols on that card, you will defeat it and you will get a number of levels based on the number of gems that are on the top of that card. So with this green demon here, I get 1 green level, so I get to move 1 gem in the green section up 1 level, or a white gem on anywhere on the board 1 level. So with this one, let's go ahead and add this green one up here. Now I could have also done this one here. I could move this up here and then I unlock this skill. At that point I would immediately gain these 2, stamina and focus. Let's do that instead. And then I can remove this from the board. And then once I have completed all the levels on that demon, then I'll flip him over and he becomes a new item that I'm going to place in my stash. You will not be able to equip items until you rest, so they'll be stored up in this section here. Then the next demon will be resolved if you have another one. So with this one, this is a blue demon and it's 1 level, so I get to move 1 of my blues up 1 level, or again I can choose to move a white gem in a different area up 1 level. So let's go ahead and unlock this one here, gaining Surge. So with this one, this is a skill, and this will be flipped over and placed over at my skill section now. And then for the rest of the game now, I can use the abilities on that skill. Again, this demon has been resolved, so he'll flip over and become a new item. And the final step in the fight action is to check for achievements. So currently with the first row with the skill achievements, it's based on the number of skills that you've unlocked in your section here. So right now my Huntress has unlocked 2 skills, but the first requirement is 3, so she won't gain anything there. The second one is the number of gems you have based on the requirements. So this one needs 2 of 2 different types of gems, which are red, green, or blue. The white ones don't count. And Huntress only has 1 blue gem unlocked right now, so she won't get that one. And the final one is the level of items equipped, again based on the number on the side. And with the 2-player game, the first and second level on this one are not available. So even if she had 4 levels of items equipped, she would not get anything for that. And the levels on the items are based on the number of gems that are there. So right now these are 2 level 1 items. So if both of these were equipped, then she would have a total of 2 levels of items equipped. So at this point, then the fight action is done and our player's turn is over. And the final option for an action a player can perform is the rest action. And with this action, this has 4 steps that you're going to follow in order. The first is to restore, where you're going to get to take all of your stamina and focus and add them back to their pools from your player area. So we'll go ahead and move these. The second step is to equip items. So any items I have in my stash, at this point I can choose to equip them as long as I have the gems that are required for that item. So in order to equip these barred slippers, I need 1 blue gem that I can place on there. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll place that down here, and then I'll place this gem on here. A white gem can also be used as any color gem that is required. So with the hat, I can choose to equip that as well, as I do have that white gem. Now the first time that I equipped an item, I also unlock a new die that I can add to my area. So I'll have 3 dice from this point on. Any items you don't equip can be left in your item stash, or you can also discard an item to gain a potion of your choice. And for each item that you discard, you'll gain 1 potion, either a red or a blue one. And then the fourth step again is to check for achievements. So if you've gained anything at this point, such as the equipped items, now is the time when you would check to see if you've gained any achievements for those. Moving into Act 5, which are the Walls of Sanctum. So when the first player moves into the Walls of Sanctum, or the 5th act, they're going to place their figure on their colored space, and then they're going to populate as normal. And then from there, just as normal, he's going to choose a set of them that he wants to gain. And the players are also going to gain their last Divine Intervention die. And this token can be removed as well. Any player that moves onto the 5th board after the first player will not add any more demon groups, so they'll have less choices to make as more players move onto those boards. So next, let's say that my player here moves onto her space, and then she makes her final selection as well. When a player starts their turn and they don't have any demons to face, they can choose to breach the wall. If they do that, they're going to move their figure up there and take out and place out the 6th tile with the Demon Lord on it. You're also going to remove the achievement boards at this point, even if there's achievements left on them, because once the Demon Lord comes out, you cannot gain achievements anymore. So this board will go away. And then you're also going to shuffle up and place out the Demon Lord cards and place 2 cards at the top of the cathedral. Once the 2 cards are placed, that player's turn is over. This is also going to trigger a final countdown in a way, which is referred to as Call of Arms. And what this does is that after the player moves onto the cathedral, each other player can choose to answer that Call of Arms, discarding any demons that they're currently facing on their board and immediately moving next to that player on the cathedral. And a player can choose to do this even if they're not on the Act 5 board yet. So, for example, let's go ahead and say that the Slayer is facing off against a couple of monsters. So let's just throw a couple of monsters onto his board. So our player moved on to the cathedral, triggering the Call of Arms. And so during the Slayer's turn, he can choose to answer that call, moving his player up to that board and discarding any demons he's facing. Or he could choose not to and fight those demons. So let's go ahead and say that he chooses to fight the demons and he ends up doing a couple of wounds on them, resolving those effects. And then during our player's next turn, that player is not going to be able to do anything, but they're going to place a Demon Lord card underneath that spot. At that point, again, it'll go back through the other players. A player can choose to answer that call, moving on to that card, or they can choose again to fight the demons if they're facing demons still. So let's say that the Slayer at this point goes and fights the demons again. He defeats the demons, and he's all good with that. So let's just get rid of these. And again, during that player's turn, she's going to place out another Demon Lord card. And at that point, when the second Demon Lord card is out underneath that player, then the other players must move on to there. So even if our Slayer had demons that he was still fighting, he would discard them at that point, and he must move on to that last space. Once the Call of Arms has been resolved, then the players are going to move into one last final respite where they get to equip any items that they have, rearranging any of their cards, buying any potions that they're able to buy. Now at this point, the players are not going to be able to gain any additional achievements as the achievement board has been removed, and so they will not be able to gain any new achievements. But any other items that they have at this point that they don't equip will be discarded. They can clear off their skills board, removing any of the gems that are still on there and any of the skills that they did not achieve for this. So with my player here, let me go ahead and equip her stuff real quick, as she's got quite a bit here that she can go with. So first off, let's put that new hat on. And we'll clear her boards of all her stuff, as usual. So let's get rid of that hat and put this one on. And then I do want that sword as well. Once you've finished equipping any items that you want to equip and spending any of your items to purchase any potions that you're able to purchase, then you can go ahead and discard the rest of the items as you won't be able to use those for the rest of the game. Any gems that you have on the board or anything, you can go ahead and discard as well, unless your player has abilities that will use those gems if they're in the pool. You can also reveal your blessings at this point. And once the players are done with this, then we're ready to move into facing off against the Demon Lord. The final step in Act 5 is the Demon Lord's answer. At this point, you're going to start at the top with the 2 cards, revealing each one and resolving it for each one of the players. So let's start with this one here. And so it is Firewall. You corrupt 1 blue ability space, or you can take a wound. So each player is going to have to corrupt 1 of their blue ability spaces or take a wound of their choice. So with my Slayer, he is going to go ahead and disable this ability here, placing a black token on it, meaning that it is corrupted and he cannot use it anymore. And my player over here is going to do that on that space there. Likewise, otherwise, the player could choose to take a wound. Now, there is one important thing with wounds. They automatically take a wound away from your track. You cannot defend against them. Unlike with monsters that attack and do damage, these are straight wounds and cannot be blocked with abilities or skills that you have. Once the card is resolved, then you'll do the same thing with the next card. So this one is Weakness. Lose 1 stamina or 1 focus. So with my Slayer, he's going to lose a stamina, and with my player over here, she's going to lose a stamina as well. Again, a player can also choose to take a wound instead of taking the top effect. From there, any other cards that are on there, so with this third card it would be revealed and resolved, but only for the player that's on that space or any player behind that. So only the Slayer would take the effect on this one and this card. If all the players are up here, then you wouldn't have those cards and then you wouldn't have to resolve them, period. At this point, we're going to set up for the final battle. I like to put the cards on the top of each player's board, but you can also put it above the board as well. It does not matter. With this, you're going to go ahead and grab the Demon Lord cards and deal out them in alternating order with the Fury cards. So I'm just going to do this all at once so you can see how this works. And then the Fury cards. Now, one important note with this is that the players are not allowed to rearrange these in any manner. The cards are dealt out and they cannot be moved around. From there, then each player is going to place their hero on the leftmost space on their board. And then the players will enter into a fight step. And this can be done simultaneously. The players do not have to wait for each other. But once they have finished their first fight, then there is going to be a break where the Demon Lord is going to roar, and I'll go through that in a minute. Moving into the fight, I want to show an example of this. So with the Huntress, she is going to start on the leftmost space, and she's going to go ahead and roll her dice as normal. Now, when assigning dice, you must assign dice only to the card that you're currently on. So let's go ahead and start off with that. And she does have some abilities. So before the roll, she has a sharpshooter ability where she can change a die to a different symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and add a 5 right away. And then I am going to trigger this so I can get this extra die here. So then I'm going to roll. And didn't do too great. I need a 4, so let's go ahead and do this to reduce that to a 4. So these two are done. So then my Huntress is going to move to the next space. This is a Fury card, so you have to reveal and resolve that card, and it's only for the player that is. So only the Huntress is going to do this. So this is a tail swipe, and it says, for this fight, lose 1 die yet assigned or take a wound. So let's go ahead and just lose a die. So we'll do that, and then she's going to go ahead and assign that one there. And then she needs a 3 and she needs a 5. So I need to gain a 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll use this here and change this to a 5. Then she'll move on to the next card. Once a player is out of dice or cannot assign any more dice, then you're going to resolve any damage that's on there. Each card that has the Demon Lord on it is going to do 2 damage, so 2, 4, 6, 8. And then if there was a Fury card exposed, it would also do damage based on whatever it listed. So at this point, she does 8 damage as she defeated those 2 cards, so they will not attack. And so she's going to have to resolve that. So the Hat has a really powerful ability where she's going to be able to stop 5 damage there. Then she is going to use 1 on the sword to block 2, so she's up to 7. And she'll use the last one on the boots to stop the last point of damage for a complete blocking of all the damage. Then we can return the dice as normal, and you can either eliminate these cards or move them off to the side or however you want to deal it. If you did damage, so let's go ahead and say, for example, that she had that extra die there and did that, she would replace that with a hit marker so that you would not have to resolve that again in a later turn. The one other important thing is if, for example, she had not defeated this Fury card, during her next turn, you would not resolve the effect of that card again at that point. Each of the Fury cards only triggers once when a player reveals it. Once all of the players have completed their first fight, then the Demon Lord is going to roar. With this, it is going to be based on the difficulty level that you've set at the beginning of the game. With my game, I went ahead and just chose normal, so I'm going to place 2 cards at the bottom of this board. From there, then you're going to flip over and resolve each card in order just like before. So with this one, I roll 1 less die on your next fight, or I can take a wound. So each player has to make that decision. So the Huntress is going to take a wound, and my player will also take a wound, removing that focus and adding it back to his pool. From there, then we'll reveal the next one, and so this one is roll 1 less die on your next fight. Oof. Or take a wound again. So with my player here, she's just going to lose a die, and my player will lose his last token on there, as this replaces his wounds. That's a special ability of the Berserker, or the Slayer. From there, then the players are going to enter into another round of fighting, where once all the players are done, then again the Demon Lord is going to roar, adding 1 less card than the number of cards before. So with a normal game, he would have 1 card then resolved. In higher level games, there's going to be more cards. Then once that card is resolved, the players will go through another round of fighting. And if you're playing a mode higher than normal, then again, you'll go through and add 1 less card to that higher stack. In a normal game, there's only 2 rounds where the Demon Lord is going to roar. At that point, then the players will continue fighting round after round until either the players are eliminated or they've defeated the Demon Lord. Before moving into the ends of the game, there is a couple of important notes that I want to point out. So first off, with the Demon Lord and Fury cards, I would highly recommend you check the back of the rulebook on page 22 each time you resolve one of these cards until you're familiar with them, as some of the cards will allow you to make a choice even if that ability isn't applied, in which case you kind of get a pass or a bonus to it, where others will make you, if you cannot meet the top effect, then you must take the wound. So I would highly recommend checking the cards until you get familiar with them. Also with the blessings, they're going to be outlined in the back of the book, but they work basically the same way. Each one allows you to use the blessing that's listed 1 time. So if I wanted to add a +2 to one of my dice, then I would flip this over and I could only use each ability once. The other important thing is that during the final Demon Lord's battle, you are not allowed to rest. So each time you fight, you can use your potions to get new ability or get tokens back in that, but you will not be able to rest resetting your boards in any way during the final battle. The game is going to end in one of 2 different ways. If all of the players are eliminated, then the Demon Lord more or less wins the game, and the player that made it furthest on their track on the demon fight will be declared the winner of the game. If only 1 player is able to defeat their Demon Lord on their track, then that player obviously is going to be the winner. And the final way is if multiple players have defeated the Demon Lord, as is the situation in my game, the player that has more wounds is going to be the winning player. So my Slayer had 5 wounds left versus my Huntress that had 4, so the Slayer has won the game by a small margin. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. If you found this video helpful, if you like what I do, please consider that like button, subscribing to my channel, as it really does make a big difference. It helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it. I take into account everything you guys say to make the best possible videos. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.